trade. The Bosnian Beast is back. CJ McCollum is working his shot back into form, and the schedule is about to get rough for these Trailblazers. I'm Aaron Fentress of the Oregonian, along with Joe Freeman, also of the Oregonian. We're going to bring you all that and more today on the Blazer Focus podcast, brought to you by Mart. Joe, I haven't talked to you in a while. You went on vacation. You ditched me, during the trade deadline. I was like, wait, what? I don't get any help with this? I've never covered a trade deadline in my life. I think I was up for like 48 hours straight. I blame you, but I hope you had fun on your little vacation.
That's called a vet move, Aaron. You take your vacation during the busiest time. That's how you got to roll. No, that's the beauty of not doing the beat anymore, is I actually get spring. It's my first spring break off in maybe 15 years. Yeah. Wow. Even back to our prep days, Aaron, we didn't get spring break off either. That's right. Yeah. It was great though. Cannon Beach was beautiful. Went there for a couple of days, had some family around. It was great. I'm glad that I was able to enjoy it while you had to work.
Good for you. All right. Speaking of the trade deadline, the Blazers made a move. They traded beloved guard Gary Trent Jr. and Rodney Hood, also a fan favorite, to Toronto for Norman Powell, a 6'3" guard who can light it up. There's no doubt about that. Now, let me give you my quick take on it. I was looking for them to maybe add a forward because I thought they're loaded at guard. Why would you swap out guards when you can maybe swap a guard for a forward? But they went the guard route. Neil O'Shea told me when I talked to him that they did look at a bunch of different things, but trade capital was an issue, and teams like Orlando were looking to build trade capital. They got 2 picks from the Bulls and Wendell Carter for Vucevic. They got a first-round pick from Denver in the Aaron Gordon deal, and they got 2 seconds from Boston for Evan Fournier. So things like that, Neil O'Shea said weren't out there, so they settled on. So not settled. I take that back. They targeted Powell instead because Toronto was more flexible and had interest in Trent. So my initial question to you is, what did you think of the deal when it happened, and what do you think now after a couple of games?
Well, I was like, really? When it happened, I wasn't convinced that the Blazers were going to be able to make a move for the very reason that you mentioned. They kind of went all in the off season. They gave up the capital that you talk about in the Covington deal, and so I knew that asset wise, with a lot of these rebuilding teams, what they're looking for, they were kind of limited on that. After processing it though and watching his fit, I have to say that I kind of like it. And in many ways, it's kind of a classic Neil O'Shea move. Again, a guy on no one's radar. There wasn't a flood of rumors about Norman Powell going to the Blazers, which is kind of how Neil rolls. And a kind of an understated but yet really talented player that kind of blends in both character, personality-wise, skill set-wise, with the existing Blazers roster. And first of all, he's a guy who is a champion, so he brings that to your roster. I like to point out playoff experience and especially a champion when they arrive. But also, he's kind of like an older version of Gary Trent, only not quite as much of a gunner. And he has had some prolific shooting games where he's made 8, 9, or 8, 7, 6 threes in a game, but he doesn't just kind of jack it up like Trent does. And for as much as
trigger,
he does, and when he gets behind the 8 ball, so to speak, he wants to just jack it up even more. You respect that mentality, but I think even the most ardent fans and diehard Blazer fans sometimes got a little annoyed or put off by that. So, but he's a guy. We're 2 games in, obviously, so right. It's overreacting no matter what we say, but. Been a really nice fit, a capable defender, a smart defender, a guy who, made his impact offensively in his first game. And look, if he's going to average 18 points and he's going to shoot, what is he shooting? 70-something% from 3-point range and 53% from the field.
70?
I think he's 6 for 9. So.
Oh, so you mean so far with the Blazers? Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so if that keeps up, I think it's
great.
No, but I mean, he's a guy who doesn't need a lot of high volume to shoot and to produce. He's a guy who can kind of fit in alongside in a 3-guard lineup, which I know we're going to talk about more. Kind of versatile, can come off the bench, can start. And I liked things that fans don't care about. I like his demeanor. I like his. He's got a little bit of an edge to him, but it also seems like a very well-respected guy.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see a lot of media hop on, and you say Zoom, you never see that before, but hop into a post-trade thing and kind of show the reverence that the Toronto media showed for
Yeah.
Norman. And
Oh, you saw
there
that,
was,
yeah.
yeah, mutual respect. He kind of referred to them by first names, which is really rare in the NBA. And they kind of had a goodbye, which,
Yeah.
you know, you don't
Thank
get
you
that very
so much and good luck. And I
right.
listened to the whole, I was in on that and I was like, man, these guys love this dude. Like they're going to cry.
Right. And I think that it's a small, but a very important and telling thing that a guy can be that respected by someone who's covered them day to day for so long. And to have that mutual respect, I think it speaks volume about how he was viewed in Toronto. And how he likely will fit into an organization that really values culture and all that stuff, and wants to bring in the right kind of guys. Now, I don't know about long-term fit because he's going to be a free agent and salary and all that sort of a thing. But right now, I have to say I like the move.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't get an impact forward and you're just trying to find someone to help you, you know, he fits the bill. You upgrade from Trent. You mentioned he's an older version. He's a grown man. He's 27. He's been around the block. He's been in the playoffs. He's been to the finals. Trent's still really young. And one of the things that was clear, despite how much people love Trent, is that he was so one-dimensional. He didn't really do anything. It was 3 or nothing. Not that he couldn't make mid-range shots, but he never really looked for him. If the ball bounced to him and he just happened to be in the mid-range area, he'd shoot it. But he was not looking to create other types of shots. His box score stat line, void of rebounds, void of assists. You know, he was just, if I get the ball behind the three-point line, I have even a sliver of an opening, it's going up. Powell is going to give you a guy who can get to the rack. He can take people off the dribble. He can finish. He's got hops. He's got bounce to him. He's got some length. 6'11" wingspan, which I always find it funny when we talk about wingspan. He's got some, you know, pump fake moves, up and under type things in the lane. And he's just a pro's pro who's been there, done that. It's definitely an upgrade. But I just still, I don't think this necessarily made them better. Like, I think it's a slight upgrade, but it's like, to me.
I see what you're saying. I think he's a better player, and I think he's a smarter player. Not that Gary Trent's not a smart player; he's just a younger player. And really, to detour a bit, I think it's going to be better for Gary too. He's going to get some burn in Toronto. Yeah. I mean, he's going to be a starter. Yeah. And so he's going to get a chance to establish himself there, potentially to work for a deal with Toronto or elsewhere. And so good on him. He was a good guy that kind of endeared himself to the franchise before he left. But I would say that they did get better. Obviously, they're better now because they've got Nurkic back. They've got CJ back. And then you add Norman to the fray. It's a lot of experience. It's a lot of basketball intelligence. And again, he's kind of, like you said, he's a grown-up version of Gary Trent. He's like what Gary Trent might want to be one day when he grows up.
Right.
And so, like, I think they did get better. And defensively, too. I think Gary had some strong moments defensively, but much more uneven. You know, he did very well, and then he would, you know, have some lapses. We kind of saw a little bit of the impact Norman can make. You know, he gets more deflections. He's more prone to get steals, which Gary, you know, could do on occasion. But you know, I think he'll fit in as a piece in the bigger picture. And like you mentioned, he does add a bit more versatility than Gary does. But the ability for him to play, which I guess we could kind of pivot to the next kind of topic here, which is you know, we have seen, in fact, Norman play in a 3-guard lineup in stretches with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. I don't know. Do you see that as a long-term thing? Is that a wrinkle? Is that how does that fit in moving forward? Is that something that can be successful as the Blazers try to kind of work with this retooled roster?
Well, Stotts has insisted as recently as yesterday, or after their last game on Sunday, that he's not committed to starting the 3-guard lineup. That they did it against Toronto, 1, because it was Powell's former team, 2, because he anticipated that they're going to play a 3-guard lineup, although Lowry didn't play, but with Lowry, Van Vliet, and Trent. So he said, you know, there was a no-brainer to do it then, but he wasn't committed to it moving forward. At the end of the day, starter, non-starter, he's probably would play the same amount of minutes if he started or didn't start. Like, he's going to play a lot. He's going to play a lot with Lillard and McCollum. But this is where I kind of go to the and factor. Like, I think on offense, it's an upgrade, but their offense was already so good. So, okay, they're going to go from a 115 offensive rating to a 117 offensive rating. Yay. The defensive side, I'm not buying that defensively they're going to be that much better, because if you're taking him out, if you're taking Jones out for Powell, Jones is 6'6", longer, a more proven defender, I believe. And I do believe that the 3-guard lineup of Dame, CJ, and McCollum is going to get exposed defensively. Like, it just is. Those guys are not going to be able to match up against good small forwards. I think when you get into the playoffs, I don't know how you would even like if they end up 6th seed and played the Clippers at the 3 seed. Who in the heck is guarding Kawhi and or George? Like, that person is just going to go off on CJ or Powell, whoever's guarding them. So I just believe in the bigger picture, it's more of a cute move, I would call it. Like, oh, it's going to be fun to watch, and oh, it's going to be interesting, but it's not going to impact winning that much in my estimation when those 3 guys are out there for so long, and other teams are just going to feast on those 3 because of the mismatch.
Yeah, you also have to look at it's a mismatch the other way. And the Blazers have used 3-guard lineups with some effectiveness in the past. Shabazz Napier had some pretty good stretches in a very unique 3-guard lineup. Seth Curry was probably the best in recent years playing alongside Dame and CJ, and we saw that be very effective in the playoffs, obviously, when he was here. When you look at the balance of the roster, first of all, you lose Rodney Hood, who I think we can all agree is not the same Rodney Hood that he was a year and a half ago.
He was struggling.
Yeah, and now that said, he had some pretty important stretches in some late in games in which he got some defensive stops or hit shots and such. And I think his poise and kind of clutch penchant for being clutch really helped this team. But you kind of you get rid of I wouldn't say a problem, but you get rid of 2 guys for 1, which should help some of the depth, quote unquote issues of playing time and such. So you have a better balance there. And the issue now is which you kind of touched on is, do you start Powell? Do you start DJJ? How does that work? Are you flexible? Which I know NBA players usually hate. They want to know their role and what to expect on a nightly basis. So there'll be some finagling there. But in a way, this kind of brings up a larger issue, which is, I guess, just moving forward, there's going to be an adjustment for this team. You are integrating right now 3 new starters / 3 very important role players. We don't know if Powell's going to be a starter or an important player, but 2 important starters in him. And so you don't just go right back in and jump into the fray and take off. So it's going to be a little choppy waters here and there as the guys adjust to each other. So, and I know, we're going to talk about the difficult schedule looming soon, but this is an important couple of weeks as these guys familiarize themselves with each other and kind of integrate these new players. So it'll be interesting to see how Terry balances that and how the chemistry kind of comes together.
Right. Now, they hope to re-sign him. O'Shea said that straight out. He has a player option at about $11 million for next season. They want him back. And so it makes me wonder, in order to convince him to come back, aside from money, I mean, money talks, but you have to sell him on his role, right? Like, if they play him as a backup and give him 25 minutes, is he going to want to come back? If they start him and give him 33, 34 minutes, he might be like, yeah, I'm a starter here. I'll come back. So it'll be interesting to see how much of a factor that plays into it. What say you?
Well, it's 2 games in. It's tough to say. A lot is going to be, how he feels about the city and so on and so forth. It is a franchise that has earned some clout, I think, league wide for how they treat their players. And we've seen, with Melo, I think Melo's return speaks for itself about how it's starting to be viewed. Its reputation is changing. So, how does he feel about playing alongside Dave and CJ? Is he looking for money / big minutes? Is he looking for money? Is he looking for a chance to win? I don't know him, so I don't know what's going to go into his decision. I think if you did ask him, he would say, I don't know what I'm going to do now anyway. So if the Blazers want to retain him, they'll be able to offer him more money than anyone else. I assume, like, they'll carry his bird rights, right?
I have to double check, but I think so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right. And so, they'll kind of, hold the card, so to speak, there. But we're getting way too ahead of ourselves.
Yeah,
here,
we are. Of
Aaron,
course. That's what we do on the Blazer Focus podcast. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic, because I think this by far is the single most important thing going on with this team. Powell is, like I said, a nice addition, but whatever. Unless Yusuf Nurkic can get back to being the Bosnian beast, because right now he's not the beast. He's Yusuf Nurkic. He was the beast at the bubble. He was a beast before he broke his leg 2 years ago this month in March, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So right now he started the season averaging about 10.7 rebounds. He admitted he was out of shape. He was trying to work himself back into shape. He showed some flashes of being the beast, and then he broke his wrist on one of the flukier plays I think I've ever seen anyone break something on. It was just ridiculous. Like, the odds were astronomical. He comes back for 2 games, Orlando and Toronto. Combined, he's on a minutes restriction. He played 19 minutes in both games, shot 54%. I like that. And he had total of 18 points and 12 rebounds. Sorry, I'm reading the stats wrong. So 18 and 12 in 38 minutes. You would take that from anyone, even though it's spread out over 2 games. So I think we're seeing some flashes of the formerly known Bosnian beast. And if we can get that, if the Blazers can get that from him over 30 minutes a night moving forward, maybe not going to get 18 and 12, maybe you get 16 and 10. I think they have a chance to make some noise. If not, finito, first round and out. Cantor is not going to be able to match up a 7-game series. Powell and CJ and Dame are going to be too small in the backcourt without a true rim protector who's being dominant behind them. What do you think about the Nurkic situation? And can he return to being the beast?
Yeah, of course he can. He's assuming he's healthy. He can return to be the player that we've seen before, and I expect him to play well once his minutes boost up, once he gets back into shape and all that stuff. We've seen flashes, hints here and there. He's his defense, in the first game and going rogue or whatever, he made some big plays, and even and the Blazers have played 2 shaky teams, so it's hard to make too much out of that. But he played a bigger team in Toronto the next night and had good moments, and so we've seen flashes of his passing ability. The nice little thread the needle bounce pass, maybe to CJ or someone for a layup. And so that's the thing. We didn't see that from Cantor because that's not part of his game. And it's hard to describe everything that Yusuf brings because he's so, versatile and multidimensional. He's a guy who's had the 5x5 before, which not a lot of guys can say. He can block shots, obviously, and rebound. And his screen setting is an underrated asset for this team to kind of really clear things out for the offense and open things up for them. And so everything that he does, it's important. And, one thing that you don't think about, and I'm going to go ahead and bring it up, is we haven't had very many chances to see the Nurkic-Cantor combo. And I don't even mean necessarily at the same time, although that is an option, but just in the same game. Because it was very shortly after Cantor arrived and made his debut in Brooklyn after the trade deadline way back when, was it 2 or 3 years ago, that Nurkic got hurt. And there are not a lot of teams who can throw that much beef, that much size, that much offensive kind of versatility and different looks. And we've talked about Cantor and what he brings. That guy coming off the bench / working with the starters, and those guys maybe playing together some, and those guys impacting a game, the same game together, is going to be really interesting to see. Again, going back to what we've talked about way back when the season started, there's just not a lot of teams that have the top to bottom versatility and just different looks that the Blazers can throw at a team. And so I expect Nurkic to return to form when he starts to see more minutes. And I expect that tandem to be pretty unique from what we see in the NBA right now.
They combined to go 20 and 12 against Toronto, against Orlando, who had just traded Vucevic. So what does this mean? But still, they combined for 23 points and 23 rebounds. So yes, their combined production should be very nice for this team, no doubt about it. Okay, so we're agreement on the fact that Nurkic can probably get back to form. I think that they are not going to be very good, or in terms of surviving these next 26 games, which we'll get to, without him doing so. and definitely not going to be a force in the playoffs unless Nurkic is back to being what he was at the bubble. Okay.
And think about this too. Like, and every time we do this, I feel like we're crushing Cantor, but my man is not a defensive presence. I think we can agree on that. You're putting someone who is a defensive presence. So not only are you getting that, you are changing everything about how a team plays defense. And for every, we can go on and on about the Blazers defense, and Lord knows I don't want to do that, but the impact will be exponential because of the minutes that he's replacing and the impact he can make, if in no other way, on defense. But when you add in his passing, when you add in his offense and all that.
True. You're 100% correct. If he's back to his normal self, because before he got injured, they were 27th ranked in defensive rating. So that's what I'm saying. Like, they have to get the old Nurkic back.
Yeah.
Okay. What's next?
Well, you wanted to talk about your boy Rocco, and he's obviously been ridiculous, spurred on by my saying he was a disappointment because of his shooting.
Yeah, you know what? He said something about that too. He said he was looking for you.
Hey, he knows where I live. Actually, he knows how to find me. It was a weird thing to do at the time, which I couched everything saying I don't feel good about this because it's exclusively based on his shooting. But what he has done from beginning to end is just provide so much in so many different ways. I guess, just looking at him in general the last couple of months, how would you describe what he's given this team?
Man, it's like he was so mediocre to start. Like, he shot 19% in January, over a few games from 3-point range, and 30 in February. And then he just started piecing together these decent games. But he had this one stretch where he went 1 for 5, 1 for 4, 1 for 3. And then he had an 0 for 4, 0 for 5 to end March, or in February. In February. So it was like, okay, and he was up to 37% that month. What does it mean? We'll see. But this past month, the month of March, 49% on threes, dude. And the thing about it is, it goes a little bit unnoticed on some nights because he only shoots a handful, right? Because Lillard's jacking up 10 and McCollum's back. He's, pumping them out there. But those 3 for 4s, I'm looking at right now, 3 for 6s, 3 for 9s, 5 for 7s, 2 for 5s, those add up. And those are huge because usually he's hitting those. They're not designed for him. Like, they're not running plays to get Robert Covington a 3. Something went wrong in the offense. They double teamed him, or there was a rebound and kicked back out, and he ends up with the ball. And it's like, oh, what's he going to do with it? And he's draining these threes. And that complementing, his defense, which is just out of this world, has really elevated him to be, I think, even more than maybe they could have hoped for, because he's better now than he was in Houston for the short amount of time he was there. And he's as good as he's ever been in his career in terms of providing you with everything. And it's just been huge. Like, he in the state of Florida, he had 8 block shots, 4 steals, 7 assists, 20 rebounds, and 28 points. The 28 points are modest, but everything else as a role player, it's just been impactful. Again, it's just Orlando and Toronto, but he's been doing things like that on a night-in basis. He's averaging 7.6 rebounds for the month, 2 blocks, 2 steals, 2 assists. And block shots in today's game, there aren't as many block shots because everyone's jacking up so many threes, right? So the fact that he's getting 2 from the 4 position is pretty impressive. I have been impressed with him. Everyone's been talking about him because he's just been that quintessential cliched glue guy who does a little bit of everything and has an impact without the gaudy numbers that you would see from Dame or CJ.
I think he's kind of starting to fulfill what we thought he would be, going back to when they acquired him. He really was, in my eyes, the perfect addition. He was a guy that this team has been searching for so long. You just read off the stats, but what I like too is I like his poise and his attitude and the way he carries himself. There's a little bit of nasty, but a little bit of intelligence and
cerebral.
Just a little. It's
cerebral nastiness.
Yeah, there you go. That's perfect. And, there's a little bit of edge too. Terry Stotts had come out and said, look, I want us being the Blazers, a top 15 defense the rest of the season. And he goes, Rocco goes, no, I want us to be a top 10. And it's that kind of mindset that I think, separates guys in the league. And it's an important mindset to have on this team. I don't think he's alone. but you add in that element to the stats that he's finally starting to produce, and he just seems to be everywhere. He gets deflections all over the court, and his his hands are all over balls, and like you said, he's blocking shots, he's getting steals. He makes up for defensive miscues by his teammates. He's as we've talked about, a really good team defender. He's just a solid piece to everything, and I think maybe we probably made a little too much out of his shooting early. He was in an extended slump. It's hard not to when he had some 1-for-8s and 1-for-7s and so forth. And I think that kind of skewed things a little bit.
And plus, he had struggled shooting at Houston the last part of the season, but that's here and there.
Yeah. And so he's a guy, it's like you talked about, they're not running plays for him, but he's an important piece because when Dame and CJ are getting harassed, they're going to have an outlet there for a guy who's capable of hitting a shot on the wing, a guy who can go in and get a rebound, who's long and athletic. So, I mean, again, he's starting to show to be the player that I think we thought he would be.
Yeah, and one of the things he talked about at the beginning of the season was, aside from the stat stuff, how he just wants to, assess the offense, be disruptive, let them know that he knows what they're going to do and he's going to be trouble. And he likes to play mind games. And Stas the other day talked about how, the little things you don't see in the box score, he's doing. Like, he's making sure other guys understand what the offenses is trying to do to them, helping people figure things out. The problem, though, is that I hear all that and that's all great. So are you telling me then that their defensive rating be 128 without him? Because the defensive rating is still bad. But I asked that question, like, what would they be without him right now, given how their defense is? But he is holding together what has been a pretty mediocre defense by at least being a guy on the team who gives a darn and processes information and can make plays, no doubt about it. All right, moving on. All right, Joe.
I almost feel like I should just get a cup of coffee.
No, I'm not.
I'm gonna sit here. I'm gonna sit here. I'm gonna let you guide us into this, and then I'm gonna be just kind of sit back and be like, you know what? You just go right ahead.
No, I'm not gonna be that bad. But I'm watching highlights, NBA highlights with my 14-year-old son Peyton last night, and he looks at me and goes, what does any of this matter anymore? Let's just fast forward to the Nets sweeping the Lakers. And I just died laughing because it was perfect. So we got the Nets already stacked with Durant, Harden, and Kyrie. And some decent role players already. They just picked up Blake Griffin, which you can say, who cares, whatever. Still, it's Blake Griffin. It's a vet. It's a pro. He's not going to have to carry anything. Then they add Aldridge. Then a couple of days later, the Lakers, who are battling injuries, but still, they are loaded. They get Andre Drummond. To me, this defines a broken system. Because in MLB and NFL, if a guy is released, they have to go through waivers, which means the teams at the bottom of the standings have first crack and they move on up until someone claims them. So if that were the case in the NBA, he had to clear waivers, another team would have picked up Aldridge or Blake Griffin or Drummond. But instead, because the way the system's set up, those two can just pick wherever they want to go. And, is it any shock where they wanted to go? They all want to go to the team they think has a chance to win a championship, which just further stacks two already stacked teams, and it's completely unfair to the other teams in the race. I find it to be completely ludicrous and obnoxious. I think the NBA needs to change this rule. I think that there's if they are healthy, the Nets are going to roll through the East. Lakers are going to roll through the West. And my son's right. Let's just fast forward to the finals. What do you think?
Well, I would say that when I was 14, I thought I knew everything too. I would also say that I guess I would point out the Dallas Mavericks in 2011, the Toronto Raptors in 2019, the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2016. Now, granted, that was LeBron, and they were obviously a good team. But I'm saying stuff happens. We don't know what's going to happen here now in almost April. So you got to keep playing. Now, that said, I appreciate your point. I also know that NBA players are going to want to go where they want to go. And so they're going to go play for teams that they want. that's what a pseudo free market is. You can't prevent a guy from going to play.
But you can. The NFL does it and MLB does it. You can't get released from a team and just go wherever you want.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the reason that these super teams exist is because of free agency, though. I mean, that's the bigger issue than the buyout market. We're talking about pretty fringe guys here. I'm not so much worried about Blake Griffin. I'm not so much worried about Andre Drummond. LA couldn't start in San Antonio. Like, he's still a good player, but I'm saying these guys aren't total difference makers. Blake Griffin, how are his knees? How are Andre Drummond's knees?
Blake's been dunking again. But here's the thing: you're not wrong in terms of the fact that it's not like they added, who I'm thinking of.
It doesn't matter. Just all-star, insert on-star here.
Like a Paul George or something like that. But the thing is, I was discussing this with someone the other day. Aldridge is not the same player he used to be. But Aldridge in 15 to 20 minutes with Durant, Kyrie, and Harden around him, in those 15 to 20 minutes, is going to play like all-star Aldridge. He's going to be rejuvenated. He's going to be energized. He knows he doesn't have to go for 35 minutes and carry a team. He just has to give a 15 to 20-minute burst in a situation where he'll never see a double team ever. And if he does, he passes it to a wide open guy and gets an easy assist because dude's wide open. So guys like that who are veterans, who are former all-stars, if I have a choice in role players and I can have former all-stars who are veterans, who are going to give me 10, 15 to 20 minutes over some role-playing bench guys that no one really knows about, I'm taking those guys all day. Like, who would you rather have coming off the bench? An Aldridge or a Rodney Hood in terms of the Blazers before they traded Hood? Who would you rather have? Blake Griffin or Giles? Who would you rather have? Cantor or Drummond? Okay, toss a coin on that one, but Drummond at least is still an athletic defensive big who with LeBron and Anthony Davis, are you kidding me? That is going to be freaking scary when they get out there together, even if it's just for 15 to 20 minutes. That's why I think it's piling on. Continue.
Just getting my coffee. This is actually a beer. I'm getting my beer ready.
It's unfair. It's just unfair to the rest of, like, think about if you're Boston or even Philly or someone, and you're competing with these guys already, and then they just go and add more talent that you never had a crack at, really, because the player could choose where they wanted to go. That's what I'm complaining about. For those you can't see it, Joe just threw his hands like, what are you going to do? Well, you put in a system like the NFL and MLB where you have to clear waivers. That way someone else can claim these guys and make their team better, as opposed to stacking the best two teams in the league, which are already stacked.
We'll see. That's why they play the games, Aaron.
True, but I mean, injuries can play a factor, yes. I mean, if LeBron and AD aren't 100%, yeah, that could hurt. But barring injury, I'm telling you right now, barring injury, the Nets are going to run right through the East. It's going to be ugly. And I think the Lakers are going to do the same thing if AD and LeBron come back, because that's just too much length and athleticism for any other team to deal with. Anyway, we shall see. All right, moving along.
I mean, right now, those teams don't even lead their respective conferences, right?
Well, because of injury.
Yeah, well, I mean, Utah's been pretty good. The Clippers might have something to say about the West. Denver's lurking. They just got Aaron Gordon. The Blazers are right there. Your Blazers.
Durant's missed a ton of games. AD and LeBron are missing a ton of games. That's why they're not leading. But watch come playoffs. If those teams are healthy, watch what happens in the playoffs. It's just going to be
the 76ers and Bucks might, the potential 3-time MVP in Milwaukee might have a little something to say about that.
The Nets will smoke the Bucks.
We'll see.
Harden, Kyrie, and Durant. Oh my God.
Are they going to be healthy?
Well, again, I'm with you on the healthy thing.
Is Kyrie going to be healthy? Is Durant going to be healthy?
I'm with you on the healthy thing. I'm saying, like I said, if they are healthy, it's going to be a massacre. All right. Last topic.
It's like just want to poke the bear.
You just want to get me riled up even more.
Just want to poke. No, this is supposed to be you.
Wait, no, it says Joe right here.
Oh, you're wrong, because I led you into the last one. That's all right, though.
Okay, we'll swap it in. We'll swap it in. I'll lead into this one. Okay. So one of the things that I've been talking about just so much that I make myself nauseous is how the schedule is going to be so much tougher in the second half. And it's about to kick into high gear here pretty soon. They've been able to survive without Nurkic and without CJ, in part because the schedule was pretty soft. They do not have a very good record against top tier West teams. I think the last number I had on them was 1-7 against the top 7 teams in the West, maybe 4-8 overall against when you kind of factor in Dallas and the Warriors, I believe. So anyway, that's not very good, clearly. And the last after Detroit, I think it's after Detroit, they have 26 games left or 25. 21 of them are against legitimate playoff contenders who are all either right around or above 500. And it all gets started Friday with Milwaukee. Then the Thunder, there's a, easy game, air quote easy. And then at Clippers, at Utah. Right? Then Detroit one more time, and then it just gets gnarly. Miami, Boston, Spurs, Charlotte, which is fourth in the East. Although they lost ball. We'll see what happens there. But then Clippers again. Denver. You got Memphis 3 out of 4 nights or 3 out of 4 games over 4 nights. Memphis is 500 and playing better, and they would be way above 500 had they not lost Ja Morant early in the season. Then you got to go to Brooklyn, Boston, Atlanta. Cleveland will be easy. And then you end it with Lakers, Spurs, Houston, bad game. Then Utah, Phoenix, Denver. That is going to be wicked. And they're going to have to start off this stretch still trying to get Powell going, still hoping that Nurkic rounds into shape and that CJ can find his groove. Do you think this team can even go 500 over the last 25, 26 games?
Of course. First of all, my whole thing is I'm like you. I bring up the schedule and note when it's difficult or lax or otherwise. But I'm old school in that I don't want to hear people complaining about officiating, and I don't want to hear people complaining about the schedule because everybody plays the same teams and everybody has to deal with the same officials. So I take all that out. I have long maintained, and then we've talked about this previously in this video cast, is the Blazers' schedule actually, in hindsight, turned out to be pretty favorable considering their circumstances.
100%.
They navigated the injuries. They had an easy schedule when they were shorthanded. Now it's going to get tough for them. Well, now they have their bodies back. Now they've got the reinforcements here. So it could be a lot worse, I guess, is what I'm saying. And look, the NBA, despite you have already anointing the finalists, is loaded with that's good. Is littered with pretty dang good teams. Like there's some really, really top 6 to 7 of especially in the West, but also in the East. There's some good teams there, and so it's not going to be easy no matter who you're playing. But yes, I think they can go 500. This is a team when it's healthy and when playing its best is one of the top 3-4 teams in the West. And so, yeah, they can and should be able to hang with anybody on any given night. Milwaukee.
What you talking about, Freeman?
What do you mean? What I'm talking about?
Which the best 3 or 4 in the West?
When they are healthy.
Okay.
DJ's back. When Nurkic is back. If they're playing to their capabilities. Now they've added Norman Powell, right? When they are playing as good as they can play, they can hang with any team in the league. They're one of the best 4 teams in the West. They have not been one of the best 4 teams in the West. Don't get me wrong. They are not that team now, but they have an MVP candidate. They had a guy who prematurely was getting all-star buzz before he got hurt. They've got Nurkic, who's as important, both ways. We've gone on and on about that. They've got depth and versatility 1 through 8 or 9. They have the talent to compete and to beat anybody out there. I am going to say that until I am proven wrong because I'm going to go to the grave on that because I've been saying that all year long.
Okay, I think it's going to be – okay, I was wrong the last time we had a record debate. So you are –
Wait, what?
Did I say that?
That was – I haven't heard that in 20 years.
And I didn't even stutter when I said it.
It was so natural. It was weird.
Because I was factually wrong. See, there's factually wrong, and then there's someone's opinion that I'm wrong. When someone has an opinion that I'm wrong, they can go get bent. If I'm factually wrong, then I'm factually wrong. I had a number under 5.5. You had over. They went over. You won. I was wrong. But I'm going to set the over-under at 500 for this last stretch after Detroit. If they finish over,
wait. Don't just say after Detroit. You That's their next game. You include that in the schedule. Start with Detroit.
Because that's a given. My whole point of that topic was talking about how it ramps up Friday, not Wednesday night.
Okay, fine. Okay, fine.
They can like rotate going shopping for cars in between quarters and win that game. That was a horrible joke. But anyway, so starting with the second against Milwaukee, I think maybe a game under 500. If they can survive this stretch coming up and be still top 6, that's another thing too. I think they're going to fall out of the top 6. I think Denver is going to pull away from them, and I think Dallas is going to reel them in. Dallas has a much easier schedule. And let me just I'm not going to go through the entire Dallas schedule, but let's just look at the last 6 games. Portland, as I said, goes Lakers, Spurs, Houston, Utah, Phoenix, Denver. Dallas goes Cleveland, Memphis, Pelicans, Toronto, T-Wolves. So if they're close in those last 6 games, Dallas is going to pass them up. And Dallas right now is only a couple games back, I think 2 or 3. So I think it's going to be really tough. The only way they can survive it and still stay in the top 6 is if Nurkic becomes 18-10 Nurkic, and if CJ, which I think CJ is just like 2 games away from being CJ again. So we'll see what happens.
How would you I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. The Blazers are 28-18, right?
Correct.
How? They have no business being that good.
They're 28-18 because they played, as we talked about, their schedule is relatively soft compared to how it is going to be in the second half. Like in the top 8 teams in the West, they played most of the teams they played in the first half. They only played once.
Okay, so schedule. Okay.
So schedule.
Okay.
2, their ability to pull out games late. But they did that against bad teams. Lillard even said himself, and this was funny to me because like people were going when they were 18-10 and they had won 6 in a row. And everyone's talking about Lillard MVP and oh my God. David himself said, we didn't beat a lot of very good teams. And we had to rally late to do it. And then they go out and get smashed by Phoenix, lose at Denver, lose at the Clippers. And he's like, well, we learned a lesson. It's a very different, game against good teams that you can't play them the same way you play against bad teams. So he himself was saying we were benefiting from playing bad teams. That has continued for the most part. So we'll start looking at teams that, like I said, is 1-7 against teams in the top 7 in the West, and they're going to play a bunch of those teams. It's difficult for me to believe that they're going to go 6-2 against those teams. That's my problem.
Okay. I guess the point I was trying to make is this team has no business being 10 games over 500 based upon the injuries that they've endured to this point. So now they got all their guys. Now they're healthy. They are tied with Denver with a dead identical record. They're a game and a half out of 4th place, 3 games out of 3rd place, and 3.5 out of 2nd place. I'm just saying they are right. They are right there, and they have no business being there. So what you've seen so far will be, what are we going to see? Now that they're healthy, you're going to see once they get, again, there's going to be an adjustment period. They're not going to jump right into the team they're going to be in, say, a month. But so there's going to be a week to 2 in which we see how they kind of navigate the ins and outs of this. When they get there, they're going to be on par with a lot of these teams that they play, right? We'll see
Are they?
Yeah, I believe so. In my humble opinion, yes.
Okay.
So, because to my point, look at where they're at now with what they've been running with for 3 months or however long it's been. So we'll see. I'm taking the over on 500.
Okay, we'll set the line at 500, and we'll do another pseudo bet over under the rest of the way. Now, I think what you're saying can come true if, like I've said now 88 times, if Nurkic is back to being Nurkic. But the defensive issues are going to be there, and they're going to play some teams that they're not going to be able to easily rally. I don't know how many times this season, 6 minutes to go, they're down by 8, and then they win the game. Yeah. And you look at who they played. Well, they did that against a sub 500 team.
Well, they're the NBA's the best team in the clutch. That is
against weak teams, though.
Yeah, it still is. It is a trait of a team that, regardless of who they play, that they have that trait. It is also a trait of theirs that they're not good on defense. So we'll have something's going to even out there at some point. We'll see. Do they get better defensively, or do they? So we'll see. I maintain that talent-wise, they are capable of putting together a nice run and staying, right there, right in that zone where the 3 to 6 kind of playoff tier. So we'll see.
Okay, we'll see. That's why they play the games. All right,
that's why they play the game.
That's right. Anything else, Joe, you want to add before we sign off here?
I'm about to go eat a sandwich.
A sandwich or
I'm gonna go get myself a sandwich.
I'm about to go make my own chicken wings. My kids are like, make your chicken wings. They're so good.
Hell.
You know what the trick is? Take the skin off. I can't stand the skin on chicken wings. I rip it off and then I make them, and it's just that much better.
Well, there's no how do they become they're not crunchy, are they?
I don't like them crunchy.
No, dear God. Are you eating what are these boneless wings? What kind of human?
No. They have bone in them. I just take the skin off. The skin's gross.
I don't even know.
All right.
Yeah. This is what. Hey, everybody.
We left on a disturbing note for you, didn't we?
This is what I'm dealing with. Enough said. Remember this always.
All right. Thanks for listening and/or watching the Blazer Focus podcast. Brought to you by Mart. We'll be back again soon, so I can tell Joe I'm right. If I'm wrong, we won't be back again this season. Thanks for watching.
See you guys next season.